Lesson 110, practice with unlike mixed numbers. The practice problems in this lesson will look and feel very similar to the ones we have done in the previous lesson. And that's good because when you step back, there are a lot of little pieces that go into the skill of being able to solve these sort of problems, aren't there? You need to understand equivalent fractions. You need to understand the concept of a common denominator. Even after you rewrite the original fractions or mixed numbers with that common denominator, you sometimes may get an answer and then realize it has an improper fraction in it. You need to do regrouping to convert it into its simplest form. Or in the case of subtraction, even after you have established the common denominator, you may look at the subtraction problem and realize I need to borrow from the whole. I need to do some regrouping in order to be able to do subtraction. So there's many little pieces, and I think this extra practice is going to serve us well. Let's get started. Add 1 3/5 plus 4 4/10. Of course, common denominator is the first thing we're thinking. We look at the 5 and the 10, and we know right away 10 is going to work as our common denominator. We just need to rewrite 1 3/5. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. Multiply bottom and top by 2, and we can rewrite 1 3/5 as 1 6/10. 4 4/10 remains unchanged. Add the whole numbers together. The 1 and the 4 makes 5. Add the fractions together. 6/10 plus 4/10 gets us 10/10. Sounds funny to say. But then we look at the fraction and we realize, well, 10/10 is really just equal to 1 whole. 5 and 1 is 6. Final answer. The next problem, 3 minus 1 5/8. This might look strange at first because the 3 is just a plain old whole number. It's not a mixed number. So here's one thing that you can do if it helps you. You can take whole number 3 and rewrite it as 3 0/8. I know that looks goofy, but now at least it looks like a mixed number. It's got a fractional part. And when we put the minus 1 5/8 part side by side with it, we can see, oh, I need to borrow from the whole because 0 is clearly less than 5. So let's do that. Let's borrow from the whole. Whole number 3 is going to become whole number 2. The whole gets added back into the fraction as 8/8. So, and I'll show the arrow going this way because of the space on my paper. So I've borrowed from the whole, and I've added that whole back into the fraction. 8/8 plus 0/8 is, well, it's 8/8. So now I've regrouped or rewritten whole number 3 as 2 8/8. I've left 1 5/8 alone, but I'm ready to subtract. Whole numbers first. 2 minus 1 is 1. Then the fractions. 8/8 minus the 5/8 gets me 1 3/8. Final answer. Practice problem number 1. And remember to pay attention to whether you are adding or subtracting in each case. 5 1/4 plus 2 3/4. What's this? The denominators match. Ha! Easy. We got this. 5 and 2 is 7. 1/4 plus 3/4 is 4/4. 4/4 can be thought of or rewritten as a whole. 7 and 1 gets us 8. Number 2, 7 minus 3 and 4/9. I'm just going to add the 0/9 here to show that as a mixed number. 0 is less than 4, so we need to borrow from the whole. We need to regroup the 7. And when we regroup, the value of the whole number goes down by 1. And we're going to add the whole in terms of ninths, 9/9. 0 plus 9 is 9. So we've essentially taken whole number 7 and rewritten it as 6 and 9/9. This mixed number can stay the same. Now let's finish the job. Whole numbers first. 6 minus 3 is 3. 9 over 9 minus 4 over 9 is 5 over 9. 3 and 5/9 is our final answer. Number 3. We're subtracting 3 and 2/5 minus 1 and 2/3. We'll need to come up with a common denominator first. Start with the larger of the two. 5 won't work for 3. Multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15. Ding, ding, ding. 15 is our common denominator. Let's rewrite both as having a common denominator of 15. In the case of 3 and 2/5, I'm going to take 5 and multiply by 3 to get 15. So what I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. Therefore, 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. In the case of 1 and 2/3, I'll take 3 and multiply by 5 to get 15. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 2 times 5 is 10. But before we can subtract, we notice that we need to borrow from the whole. And by now, we're getting pretty good at this. So we know that the whole number is going to go down by 1. 3 becomes a 2. We know that the fraction is going to get the whole in terms of 15ths added into it. So 6 plus 15 in this case is 21. The other mixed number remains unchanged. Let's finish the job. Whole numbers first. 2 minus the 1 is 1. 21/15 minus 10/15 is 11/15. Number 4, we're adding 4 and 5/8 plus 3 and 3/4. Common denominator of 8 will work. So 4 and 5/8 remains unchanged. 3 and 3/4 gets rewritten as 3 and 6/8. We looked at the fraction and multiplied the bottom and top by 2. Add together the whole numbers first. 4 and 3 is 7. 5/8 plus 6/8 is 11 over 8. Improper. We got to clean this up by regrouping 11/8 on its own. Could be converted into 1 and 3/8. So we need to combine the 1 and 3/8 with the whole number 7 to get our final answer of 8 and 3/8. Number 5, 6 and 11/12 plus 4 and 2/3. Common denominator of 12. 12 will work. So 6 and 11/12 remains unchanged. 4 and 2/3 gets rewritten as multiply bottom by 4, multiply the top by 4, add them up. Whole numbers first. 6 and 4 is 10. Fractions next. 11 plus 8 is 19. But improper. 19/12 on its own can be converted into 1 and 7/12. Combine that with whole number 10. And we get 11 and 7/12. And number 6, 4 and 3/8 minus 5/6. 8 is the larger of the two denominators, but 8 is not a multiple of 6, so 8's out as a common denominator. Go through your multiples of 8 until you find one that works for 6. 8, 16, 24. 24 is going to be our winner. Let's rewrite 4 3/8 as having 24 at the bottom. If we start with 8, we got to multiply by 3 to get 24. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 3 times 3 is 9. Over here, 5, 6. If I start with 6 and multiply by 4, I get 24. Do the same to the top. Start with 5, multiply by 4 to get 20. We're subtracting, but I see that I need to borrow from the whole because 9/24 is less than 20/24. So let's borrow from the whole. Whole number 4 becomes a 3. And 9 over 24 gets 24 over 24 added back into it. 24 plus 9 is 33. Subtract. 3 minus nothing is 3. 33 minus 20 is 13. I get 3 and 13 over 24 as my final answer. At this point, if you can do problems 5 and 6 with confidence and accuracy, you've pretty well mastered the hardest part of this whole unit, because these two problems in particular really bring all of the skills together with establishing the common denominator, regrouping, whether it's regrouping an improper fraction by converting that, or whether it's regrouping over here by borrowing from the whole. Nice work, 5th grade.